We get some perspective now from supporters of both candidates, and we start with the minority leader in the U.S. House of Representatives, California Democrat Nancy Pelosi. She was the first and only woman to serve as Speaker of the House, and at this moment, she is the highest-ranking female politician in American history. But, Madam Leader, I think you're probably hoping that that's not going to last much longer after tonight. Is that right?
I'm counting the minutes to relinquish that title. I have worn my white and purple colors of the suffragettes in honor of the fact that we have our first woman president, soon to be Hillary Clinton elected president of the United States. But the vote is sacred until the people speak. We don't celebrate.
So what are you expecting tonight? You obviously are hoping for Democrats to do well everywhere, but what are you hearing? What kind of judgment, information are you getting that you trust?
Well, tonight I believe that the Democrats will come out in a stronger position. We will, of course, retain the White House with the election of Hillary Clinton. I believe we will gain the United States Senate. It will be close, but we will gain the United States Senate, and we will pick up many seats in the House of Representatives.
Why are you so confident about the White House?
Because I'm confident in the American people. I believe that Hillary Clinton is one of the best prepared people in our history to enter the Oval Office with her vision, her knowledge, her experience, her strategic thinking, her connection to the American people, and I think she has made that case. But as you know, the vote is sacred. It's almost a prayerful time for us as we wait for the people to speak and the returns to come in. But I'm confident. I'm also confident because in our efforts to win seats to the House and to win the Senate, governorships, et cetera, we really have a massive mobilization. We own the ground, and we will pull out that vote.
Well, most of the attention, as you know, has been on the Senate. There are 6 or 7 seats there, very, very, very close. Right. Less attention on the House, your body, because it's been pretty much expected that the Democrats are not going to make those 30-seat pickup that you would need to take the majority. There was optimism a few weeks ago, then along came FBI Director Comey's announcement. What do you realistically think right now about the House?
Well, we'll see. I always say to people, it's like the Olympics. Everything within a half a minute or an inch is gold, silver, bronze, or nothing. And our races are very close. But I think that we will not lose any members. I think we will pick up many open seats, and we will unseat many Republicans, and there'll be some surprises. But you point out Director Comey's comment. With his letter that he sent out, he became the leading Republican political operative in the country. He has had a tremendous impact on the lead that Hillary Clinton had, which was important to the House, Senate, and other races down ballot.
We're talking, Madam Leader, about an election that has divided the country. I mean, it seems to me that's the overwhelming feeling coming out of this election at the end of it. Is that how you see it? Do you think the country's further divided by what's happened?
I think that people have great anger over what happened in 2008 in terms of the economy. And that has given them anxiety about the future, and that has to be respected. And some of that is manifesting itself in a vote for Donald Trump. But I do think that our democracy is so great we can withstand even a candidacy of Donald Trump. And when we emerge from this, it has to be respecting the position of those who supported him, addressing the anger and anxiety that they have. And again, bringing the country together, which was always the purpose of our founders, a more perfect union.
Well, that brings me to what's been going on in what so-called blue states, especially the upper Midwest, states like Michigan, even Minnesota, Wisconsin, where Donald Trump does seem to be doing better than President Obama did a few years ago. A lot of people are asking, are Democrats really being responsive to blue-collar, working-class individuals who used to think of the Democratic Party as their party, but are now looking in another direction?
Well, I would say this. President Obama and the congressional Democrats have certainly been responsive. And what we do in terms of people in the area that you mentioned, we had the bailout of the auto industry, creating so many jobs in the industry and for those who supply the industry. And yet we didn't advertise it enough. So I think, yes, we are there in terms of middle-class economics and an economy that works for everyone, strengthening paychecks, increasing consumer confidence, people consuming, injecting demand into the economy, creating jobs versus trickle-down economics, tax breaks for the wealthiest people. But we didn't message it properly. So how could it be that Michigan, Indiana, all of those states that have benefited from the auto bailout, from middle class economics, have decided to vote Republican? There's some other reasons as well, some that are sociological in addition to economic.
Just finally, you don't believe that Democrats have some work to do in order to, not just messaging, but in order to come up with programs, with ideas that can capture the imagination and the support of these people?
Well, President Obama came up with tremendous ideas, but he was blocked by the Republicans. But we can all do better. You know, that we can all do better. We're an entrepreneurial society. We had entrepreneurs who started our country, and they want us to think in fresh, new, different ways all of the time. But the fact is that people in some of these regions are voting against their own economic interest. We have to work together. They have concerns about trade. So do we. We want a trade that is not trickle-down trade, but trade that recognizes we're in a global economy. So we have to work together on all of that has gone on leading up to it. Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. We have to listen to the people and come together as we prioritize our agenda and go forward.
Just finally, Madam Leader, how does the next president bring the two sides together, the two parties together after this election?
Well, I think we'll see some of that tonight. I think Hillary Clinton's statement tonight about being the president of all of the people. Again, we have our differences since the beginning of our country, and it's a legitimate difference. What is the role of government, et cetera, federal, state, local? But also we have respect for other people's point of view. And I think that has to really come across in what Hillary Clinton says tonight. She needs no advice from anyone. You know, she's an experienced public figure. But there has to be no doubt that this isn't about Democrats or Republicans. That's minor. It's about America. It's about the vows of honoring the vows of our founders, respecting the sacrifices of our men and women in uniform, and honoring the aspirations of our children and their future. So elections are about the future, and whoever's going to be president tonight, and I think it will be Hillary, has to understand that it's a responsibility well beyond party and all about America's future.
The minority leader of the U.S. House of Representatives, who, as we said, is the highest ranking woman in the American government right now.
For the moment.
Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Judy.